Hey friends, welcome to a new class here on my YouTube channel. I'm so happy to see you here and very happy to get going with this class. Now, why am I not seeing? There we are. Now I am seeing. Okay, here we go. I wasn't seeing your comments. Now I can see you. Nice to see all of you here. All right, so today's class, love in the cards. So, it's a thing, right? It's a stereotype that we go to our own cards with questions about our love life, and that people go to tarot readers with questions about their love life, right? I often joke that if people didn't have questions about their love life, those of us who are professional readers would not have jobs. However, after being a professional reader for as long as I have been a full-time professional reader for more than 25 years at this point. And so I've seen a lot. And I can tell you that love is unpredictable. And so whether you are a professional reader, whether you are an aspiring professional reader, or whether you just want to be able to do great readings for yourself and for others, is this me telling you that we cannot read about love in the cards? Of course not. I think that we can do amazingly valuable readings about predicting love, about handling problems in relationships, about how to let go of a relationship, all aspects of relationships. I think that tarot is incredibly valuable, but there are some things we need to know. And I think what happens is we often get very simplistic about the way we look at the cards. For example, the Two of Cups. Would you all agree that this is a card that can predict love? I often see this as the card of perfect love and perfect partnership. No matter what deck it's in, no matter how it's pictured, I see partnership in this card, don't you? And yet, I can tell you at least one occasion where this card came up for a new couple, and I, as a baby tarot reader, was like, oh, this is the card of perfect love and perfect relationship and perfect partnership. And oh, this is so good, so good, so good. The couple broke up within 2 weeks, right? And man, that taught me something. We have to be really careful whether we're reading for ourselves or reading for others. We cannot promise what we can't guarantee. And you know what we can guarantee? Nothing. And so, especially when we are reading for someone who is in a very vulnerable space, or even reading for ourselves, and when we're talking about relationships, we are always in a vulnerable space. We have to be very careful about what we say to ourselves and what we say to others, right? And we have to recognize that, like what was going on in that situation where I see this couple, they seem like a great match. This card comes up. What did I do wrong there? I think one thing as readers, when we don't get it right, we have to be able to look back at it and say, okay, where did I go wrong? That's true in any job, in anything that you're learning, whether it's a job, a hobby, whatever kind of pursuit it is for you. You have to be able to look at where did I go wrong? And I think, Dave, is there a card for it's complicated? I feel like we should just add that caveat to every single card when talking about love. This is what's coming up, but it's complicated. I think that's a fact. I think it absolutely is. Marion, maybe it was too good to be true. Sure. So here's where I think I got it wrong. This card talked about how they were feeling in that moment. Instead of getting all excited about this card, I should have pulled some more cards and progressed it forward. Okay, this is where we are right now, but where will we be? And perhaps if I had pulled a series of cards, I might have said, okay, good for a couple of weeks, but not more. So look to the future. Recognize that a card may speak to where we are right now, but we gotta look to the future. Sally, here, let me hand your heart right back to you. And oh my gosh, yeah, she was brokenhearted and I made it worse. I made it worse by not looking further. And so number one, always look further. Number two, I have seen relationships, even like marriages that I thought were good, turn bad. I've seen relationships that I thought didn't stand a chance in hell get it together and be okay. And so we always need to leave room. Love is this really powerful and unusual thing. It is by its nature unpredictable. So rule number one, when talking about love is recognizing that it is unpredictable. We can look at what the energies are. We can find the problems. We can offer advice based on what we see in the cards. But we always need to leave room for the unexpected because love is its own magic. Right? Right? And so that's rule number one. Rule number two, pull more cards and ask more questions. Okay, if this is the energy for now, great. What's the energy going to be next week? What's the energy going to be the week after that? Pull more cards. Do not necessarily see a card as predictive. See it as reflective of where we are right now. Dave, maybe instead of saying it's complicated, we should always say right now. Bang on. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Sarah says, I mean, there is always free will. Maybe the Two of Cups showed their potential, but they got in their way and messed it up. Sure. Karen, aha. And I thought the Lover's card was the temporary love relationship. Any love relationship can be temporary. I guess that's what we learned from this. And Karen says, as you had mentioned in a previous lesson, there is not predetermined destiny. So as the energy changes around the people, their readings change. That does seem to be the case. And that's true. Anyone who has had a long-standing relationship or a long-standing marriage, even if it's a very good marriage, for a fact that there have always been moments, always days where you could have said, I've had enough of this, and changed what happened. Or, you can say, okay, let's stick with this and work this through. We have choices all the time. And I think that because we are tarot readers, we may have a tendency to want to believe in this predetermination of relationships, of people who are meant to be together. And whatever your spiritual belief is fine. And I will tell you that even though I don't believe in that, I have occasionally seen relationships where I'm like, there is a sense of destiny here. I don't even believe in it. And yet I see a sense of destiny here. And so I think we almost have to be willing to see what we see, whether it's within or without of our belief system. But I do think we have to recognize that free will rules, right? Irelina, I just heard the smallest molecule of matter changes just by seeing it that fast. Right. Absolutely. So, what are the cards that tend to speak of love to us? And, any card can come up to talk about a love relationship. And we're going to talk about, if someone asks about their love relationship and at random, the Four of Swords reversed comes up for your love relationship. How are you going to interpret that? So in this case, I might say, well, it feels like you're both really busy and don't always have the time to spend together. Do you find that's true? And how do you think that's affecting the relationship? And then, here's rule 3. Always supply more questions. So in a situation like that, I might say, so what do you need to do about that? Okay, 9 of Cups reversed. Clearly, there's some dissatisfaction there. Is the dissatisfaction with the relationship or with the lack of time? Knight of Pentacles, we're really focused on work and money, and you got to tell the story and figure out what's going on. So Mercedes sort of solidified what Irelina had said, the butterfly effect sometimes shows up in readings. It's an interesting thing, and we wonder about that. We wonder, and people have asked me, by doing this reading, am I changing things? And my answer is, well, by doing the reading, you're gaining more information. And if that information is going to cause change, then yes. But we need to be careful about that as readers, because we don't want to influence a situation or potentially cause change in a situation if we didn't get it right. Like back to my example of the time I got it really wrong with the 2 of Cups. I made the situation worse. I made it harder for this woman, as she was really hoping this was going to be the guy, and it turns out he wanted nothing to do with her. After he lived with her for a couple of weeks, he was done. And so we have to be so careful. And that's why we have to study and pray and be grounded and meditate and be protected and get our own stuff. And that's the other piece, friends, is we all have stuff in our own lives and in our own hearts about love. Maybe we're very single and committed to being single, and we're like, everyone's better off single. Maybe we've been abused, and that's right in the forefront of our minds. Maybe we're in a great relationship and we want everyone to have the relationship that we have. So we have to be really careful not to bring our own stuff to the table when we talk about love. And which one of us, every single one of us in this room, has stuff about love. If you tell me you don't, I'll tell you you're lying. And I'll pull a card to tell you what your stuff is. Okay, so Bianca's Tarot, things can always change. Nancy, so real quick, the butterfly effect, a butterfly flaps its wings in China and something changes here in the US. The idea of it, it's part of the common vernacular because of the movie series, The Butterfly Effect, of which I would say the first one was awesome. After that, they sucked. That's just my opinion. But the idea of you change things when you look at it. La Morena. All right. So let's talk about some cards that typically will speak about love, or that we think might speak about love. Karen already mentioned it, the Lovers. So, with this card, and it's so interesting because it is pictured differently in different decks, right? In some decks, it's really passionate. It's like a couple having sex. I remember teaching a class on spiral tarot, and the Lovers card there is like and someone in the class says, hey, these people are doing it. Whereas these people are not, right? So we know that the cards, picture things differently. And I am one who believes that we should have a sense of a traditional set of meanings, but then if the image of the card influences you differently, that's the way it is. That's the way that's the way it is. So the Lovers is Gemini, associated with air. In this image, we see the man looking at the woman looking at the angel. What we see is decisions. We see this question of how are things going to integrate in my life? If the Lovers comes up about your job, you're going to look at, well, how am I going to get my dog walked and still work this job? How am I going to integrate things in? This doesn't always talk about love. When it does, it may talk about a really great relationship. It may also say, hey, you have to be careful about the decisions you're making in love. It may say you really have to work on your communication. Now, Bianca said, I like the Two of Cups better. So, the Two of Cups being of water is certainly more romantic, isn't it? And, with the caduceus in the Two of Cups, I think about the healing power of love. But then this can also be a partnership between you and your doctor as you go through a medical journey. And so recognize, okay, I think we're up to rule number 4, maybe 5. I don't know. Someone keeping track? I know I'm not. Recognize that even cards that we think can talk about love can talk about other kinds of relationships and other kinds of situations. And cards that don't specifically talk about love can come up to describe our relationships. So don't be rigid in terms of saying, well, this is a love card and this isn't. Because love is everywhere. And so love is in every card in the deck. And other things are too. So it depends on the context. It depends on the question, right? What other cards can talk about love? The Hierophant. So this is an interesting thing because we know the Hierophant can mean authority. It can mean dogma. It can talk about your religion. Oh, that's interesting. Carmen, Two of Cups, I see also as people just getting together for a cup of coffee. Sure. Claire, good one. Anima and animus, within the self, according to Jung. Yes, our relationships with ourself. Thank you so much for adding that, Claire. That's an important point that I was about to forget. So yes, how we have relationship with ourself. Both of these cards can also be about self-esteem. Absolutely. Cynthia mentions the Four of Wands. Yes, 100%. We're going to talk about that. Bianca, Two of Cups can be a meeting. Other cards can help to clarify that. Right. Remember that context is king, right? Context is everything. And that can come from other cards. That can come from the question. That can come from the situation at hand. It can even come intuitively, psychically, how you feel about it. Marion, in love relationships, I see the lovers being more of a connection of minds with the air and communication elements, 100%. So the Hierophant. How does the Hierophant show up about relationships? Well, it's the priest. So it can be about marriage, about getting married. It can also be about traditional relationships. Strength. Strength is a card ultimately of compassion. So this can be about love of all kinds. It is a marriage of sorts, right? Between the gentle woman and the fierce beast. So this can come up to talk about relationships. Temperance. This is one of my favorite cards for a good relationship because it is about finding that right blend. And what about the World? I think about the World from that Jerry Maguire movie. We're talking movies today, apparently. You complete me. The idea of that relationship that really completes you. And Betty says marriage or divorce with the Hierophant. Absolutely. Let's look at other things here. Karen sees the Ace of Cups as self-love. Lacey, the Three of Swords, as a card of heartbreak having to do with relationships. Absolutely. And that's an interesting one because the Three of Swords can be a lover's triangle. It can be a sense of betrayal, but not always, right? Okay. 10 of Cups, absolutely. Anna, who shows up as Marcos here. Hierophant, at times, Hierophant may come as a great spiritual connection, sure. But it can also be, oh my gosh, I'm married to this person who just became a dogmatic Christian and I can't handle it anymore, Okay. Sarah, I think it's interesting. Good call. It is interesting that strength is called lust in the Crowley deck. Very, very interesting. And La Morena says, regarding what Betty said, that justice, right? Justice can absolutely be a card of divorce or also finding the right balance in your relationship. Now, in the minor arcana, Karen mentioned Ace of Cups for self-love. Irelita, the devil, I love you, but you aren't good for me, right? Absolutely. Okay, so I can also see the Ace of Cups as a new relationship, the beginning of a new relationship. You're going to meet someone or you just met someone. But the thing is, with that, just because you just met someone doesn't mean that someone will be the someone. That's always the question. And Bianca's tarot, Three of Swords can mean so many things. Somebody's heart can be blocked and not ready for vulnerability. Sure, sure. Betty, Nine of Cups, getting your wishes fulfilled with that person you've always wanted. Could be, sure. Okay, Ten of Cups. So the Ten of Cups is a card I really do like for a good relationship. But again, same as with the Two of Cups, it only reflects what is right now, and what's going on right now. But I do see this as a card of a happy relationship, a happy home, a possibility of a future. Nine of Cups, a suitor. This may tell you to go talk to the person that you have a crush on. It may tell you someone is coming to you, right? Bianca, Ace of Cups for love reminds me of great potential. Now, what about the Ten of Pentacles? Is this a romantic card? It is the Castle card. It's a card of real estate. It's a card of generations, legacy, progeny, all of those things, and in that family. And so in some versions of this card, I could see it as a love relationship, but in some, it wouldn't necessarily be my first go-to, right? So, sometimes it depends. In Hanson Roberts, I have seen the Magician as a great relationship when reading for a heterosexual woman or a gay man, because look how hot he is. There's a hot man there, and sometimes it's that simple, right? Right? Sometimes it's what you see in the card at the time. La Morena, oh, I just missed you. Okay. Bianca, sorry, I'll go back to you, La Morena, in a minute. Bianca, Four of Wands, great card for love or building foundation. We're going to talk about the Four of Wands in just a minute. Yes. This is the one I was looking for. La Morena, Knight of Cups, especially when a femme person is looking for a butch person, right? Strength reverse. Ten of Cups always seems a bit fake to me, keeping up appearances. It could be. La Morena, I see a lot of earth cards for love too. Yes. Anna, Ten of Cups, feels perfect, but keeping perfection may be challenging. Marion, I'd rather have a Ten of Pentacles than a Ten of Cups, but that's the Taurus in me. Oh my gosh, Anna, Magician, using toys in the bedroom. That's awesome. Nancy, could Ten of Pentacles ever mean love with an older man? Sure, in the situation, if that's what you see, sure. Sure. So let's go back to that Four of Wands. Traditionally, the Four of Wands is a card of marriage. It can literally mean attendance at a wedding, either yourself getting married or someone around you getting married or hearing the announcement of an engagement. But if I see it here in Love Seers, in Light Seers, listen to me, Light Seers Tarot, I remember that meaning and I might use that meaning. But this to me is also, oh man, let's go to the music festival. Because this reminds me of the days of my youth significantly. So, sometimes the picture. And so every card can talk about a relationship. And Bianca brings up the court cards. Yes, absolutely. Court cards talking about the relationship and how they go together. Absolutely. And so we recognize, when we look at reading about love in the cards, there's a couple of ways this comes up. Sometimes it's a question. What are the typical questions that we get or that we might ask? Will I meet someone? Or, I've got clients who call me, to do the 10-minute special. I have, Betty, I miss the days of music festivals. Oh man, I cannot wait to get back to it. I have clients who are doing app dating and they haven't met any of them in person, but they're talking to like 5 people. And so they'll call me with 5 names. And so that's another kind of questions. Another kind of question is, I'm talking to Bob on this app. What's the potential? So will I find love? What's this potential for a person I've never met? What's the potential with a person I have met? I've just started dating someone. How do you see it? And then we get into the problems in the relationship. But there's other questions too. I have a crush on someone. What should I do? Is there possibility? Will my ex come back, or can I get my ex back? And then there are the readings you do where you're just doing a reading for someone and they think everything is fine and you see something really, really different. Have you had that situation where you're reading for someone who is partnered and we're just at a party, whatever, we're doing a Two of Swords for online dating? Sure. We're just doing a general reading and I see all kinds of mayhem having to do with the love life. And they think everything's fine. What do you do with that? Have you had that situation? So the next thing we have to really look at is there are numerous kinds of questions and kinds of situations that pop up at the table. So Seven of Swords is so interesting, right? Because it can be a card of cheating or dishonesty, and maybe not just cheating, maybe financial dishonesty. But it could just as easily be a person who was cheated on in the past and now does not trust when there's no reason not to trust. It could be a person who does not trust themselves to make a good choice. And so with the Seven of Swords, we always see a loss or lack of trust. But what we do not know is what the circumstance is. And this is where, you always need more cards. And I have been criticized for my style here because I use too many cards. But I think the more cards, the merrier, because that lets the story unfold. Because the Seven of Swords, right, it could be a person who's running away from commitment. It could also be a person who's cheating. I mean, it could be anything. Or Seven of Swords, the person is stealing your heart. I mean, so many possibilities. And so maybe something we come to, it is absolutely impossible to give quality information about a love relationship with just one card. You can get a clue, you can get an idea, you can get something to think about, but you need more cards and more questions. And okay, Bianca says clarifying cards so important. And I know most of you will disagree with me, and that's fine. I am on a war against the clarifying card thing, and I use them and I teach them, but I have an issue with this because I think we overuse the concept of clarifying cards and underuse the concept of just have more cards in the reading. They all clarify each other. So the idea of this is the card and this is the card that clarifies it. I would say I use that technique maybe once a year. And when I do, it's really important. But the idea that cards provide context, that the cards work together and talk to each other. So my war with the concept of a clarifying card is it makes one card more important than the other based entirely on when it is drawn. Is Eight of Pentacles positive? So, and here's another thing. I really, really rail against the idea that some cards are positive and some cards are negative. Now, in Lenormand, that's absolutely true. You've got positive, negative, and neutral. But in tarot, I mean, we would all rather see the sun than the tower on a particular day. But sometimes the sun's going to be your narcissistic ex-husband, and the tower is going to be the thing that brings you to healing from that terrible relationship. And so back to the question of Eight of Pentacles. Eight of Pentacles is an interesting card. It tends to have to do with career. Some people see it as a master of their craft. Other people see it as the apprentice at the craft. It can be a card of being a tradesperson. It can be a card of being in a very boring, repetitive job. It can be a card of learning at work, learning by doing it over and over and over again. Now, Eight of Pentacles in a love reading. What would that mean? If it were coming up to describe the relationship, I would wonder if there was something that they were doing over and over and over again the same way, and I would wonder how that's working for them. It might mean they need to spice it up in the bedroom, going back to that idea of the magician bringing in some toys in the bedroom. It may be that they're having the same argument over and over and over again. It may be that they are working on something and learning about something and actually getting it right. So, again, it would depend. Lacey, Tower could mean great sex. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, David, more info is better, whether in tarot or detective work. Agreed. Nancy, I usually go for another deck for clarification, usually an oracle card. Sure, that's a technique for sure. Sally, so if you see relationship troubles and you throw out the how's everything in your relationship question and they say, oh, it's fine, do you drop it? Oh man, I'll pay you later for that question. That's what I was looking for. That is a great question. So it really depends. And it will depend on the setting. It will depend on whether I have, if you've paid me for an hour and you want a deep reading, I am going to say, okay, I'm happy to hear that. Let me share with you some of what's coming up here and why I asked the question. And then I'll look at the cards and I'll say, so what is showing up to me is an energy of da 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 da. Are you finding that even perhaps right now or recently, there has been this happening? And that leaves room for the idea that it really is a great relationship, just having some issues right now. Maybe what you're seeing as stress and difficulty is happening because there's a parent who's ill, or there's an issue with a child, or someone's having an issue at work. And all of those things, as we know, can bleed over into relationships in life as well as in love. And so I'll attack it that way first. Now, I will tell you that I very often have people saying, oh, the guy I'm with is a great guy. And then they'll start to tell me what the problems are. And it takes a lot of cards for me to get to this. But eventually I may come to a place where I say, so the original thing that you brought to me, that Steve is a great guy. So here are my reasons for wondering whether that's true. And I'll just lay out, it seems like he's doing this, 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 this. It seems like he has always done this, 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 this. To me, that's not my definition of a great guy. And then I'll let them take it from there. So that's how I handle that, if that makes sense. Okay, Betty, meeting someone at work for the Eight of Pentacles. Sure. Okay, the High Priestess, a difficult card to read for direct answers. So let's talk about the High Priestess, because she definitely, and here she is right here, ready to be talked about. She definitely has a place specifically in love, but also in life in general. So let me tell you, Marianne, you're so silly. So let me tell you, when we talk about the High Priestess, just in general, she often comes up career-wise for careers like medicine or cosmetology. She can talk about the need for meditation. She can talk about the need to keep a secret. She can talk about the need to find balance. She can talk about someone who is a little reserved or just needs peace and quiet, please. Now, when we're talking about love, if this card comes up in its upright position for a heterosexual man or a lesbian woman in talking about the woman that they are with, this is the card of the perfect woman. And so there's a sense of like, if your partner sees you and you're female or identify as female this way, that means that your partner believes that they are with the perfect person. It's really beautiful. This can also be a card of perfectionism. If it can come up for someone because they're feeling bad or guilty about themselves because they're not perfect. You know, that tendency to want to always be perfect and do things perfectly. Now, if the high priestess comes up for a single person who is seeking a woman and can't find one, it may be that they are like really shallow and they're seeking someone perfect rather than someone human. So there's that. Now, when ill-dignified, Eden Gray called the high priestess reversed a woman of low virtue. And this is where we get in, as Betty said, the mistress, disrespect of women, misogyny, sexual issues. It could be sexual impropriety. It could be cheating. It could be disrespect of women. That's when we get into all of that. So the high priestess, and I'm so glad you brought it up because the high priestess is a really important card in general, but it's a really important card with relationships. And because it can mean so many different things, you want to really work with your intuition. You want to work with the other cards to figure out what she's trying to tell you because the message is going to be important. Okay. Cynthia, the devil could be an abusive relationship. Sure, it sure could be. Sally, I feel like using several clarifiers bring more intuition into the reading, but why are we calling them clarifiers? Why can't they just be more cards in the reading, and why can't we give them the same power as the other cards? That's just me splitting hairs, and I recognize it. But I feel like, you know, each card that you pull, if you pull one card, how do I feel? And then you pull more cards. I feel like all of those cards are of equal importance. And I'm afraid that when we think about them as clarifiers, we demote them in importance because they're all as they relate to this one card. And maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe no. So that brings more intuition into the reading. Yes. The more cards, if you can just look at a bunch of cards, there can be so much intuition. Keep pulling card after card. Oh, Sally, I think you studied with someone I know. Keep pulling card after card, and there's less time to think of the textbook meanings and more gut to get the card that grabbed you. Yes. Do what Sally says. She learned it from someone I know well. Seriously, just keep pulling a bunch of cards and see what pops out at you. You don't need to interpret every card. You don't need to talk about every card. See the story. See what's important. I've had clients say, it looks like you're looking for a card. What are you looking for? And I say, I'm looking for the truth. And you'll know it when it comes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that is going to help you from stepping in a pile of crap like I did with that story that I told you way back in the beginning with the Two of Cups. Absolutely. Betty, Empress in a love reading. Could be a person with mother issues. Could be definitely we want kids. Absolutely. Okay. So, Mercedes, could the high priestess be a trophy wife? Sure could. Oh, Bianca, Six of Cups. Let's talk about the Six of Cups for love as well. So I know people, let me see if I can find it real quick. I should have gotten this one out to begin with. I know people who see the Six of Cups as sort of the soulmate card, like you were destined to be together. Now, if you don't believe in soulmates or that kind of destiny, you might not say that, but people do see that. And what's La Morena saying? Six of Cups for childhood sweetheart, young love, or children. Let's see. Betty, I can't stand it when people on Facebook pull 3 cards only and ask, what's this mean? Right. No positions, no nothing. Right. And I think, and this is me being old and crotchety, and you can see by my gray hair, I have a right to it. Back when I first started, that wasn't a thing. That wasn't something that was really done. And I think there's reason to do it. There's reason to do it. But you want to have a reason. You don't always want to do it by rote, I think. Okay, so lots of good stuff about the Six of Cups here. Before we do that, let me get to Dave. Maybe it's my rigidity, but I thought if you're doing a spread, I always thought pulling an extra card was poor craft and just cheating. Am I too rigid? Yeah, a little. I think sometimes it's really necessary. And I've shared with you like my process for a clarifier, specifically a clarifier, is if I look at that card in that position, I'm like, what do you mean by that? I'm kind of giving it the stink eye. What do you mean by that? Then I'll pull a card. Then I'll pull a clarifier. But otherwise, I'm going to look at the spread. I'm going to develop questions from the spread. I'm going to pick up the spread, and I'm going to pull cards to answer those questions. And so I don't see that as clarifying. I just see it as more cards for more information. And I don't know why the name of it bothers me, but it does. Well, I do know why. It bothers me because in my mind, it takes away power from both the cards and the reader. Some cards need to be clarified, but I'd have clarity about which cards need clarity. And otherwise, it's just further questions, which is an entirely different and, in my mind, better thing. That's just me. Your mileage may vary. Okay, so Anna, Six of Cups, for good or for bad, bringing childhood images of what love is to adult life. Bianca, it can mean an ex coming back. I believe all this. Six of Cups, yes, from Bianca, also feeling very comfortable around a person. Absolutely, absolutely. And Betty, back to this other conversation, more cards tell more of the story. Yes, and I think that's incredibly important, especially with a complex issue like love. So, Six of Cups. So some people see it as like the soulmate card. This is the person you were meant to be with. If you don't believe in that, obviously, you're not going to go for that. But it could feel that way. And we've all had that feeling. And we've all had that feeling about people we've later broken up with. Oh, I know this was meant to be. And then it's not. But this can be that feeling. It can be that feeling of, I just met you, but I feel like I've known you forever. It can be an ex coming back. It can be someone who makes you feel young again. It can be a childhood love. It can also be, I've seen this come up where with married couples who've been married for a long time, and I do not have a clue why they're still together. They are making each other miserable. And so I'll ask the cards. And again, there's the lesson. I'll ask the cards. They didn't ask this. I did. Why is this couple still together? And this card comes up. I know it's because they've been together for a long time. They have a lot of history. They honor the history. They're not enjoying each other at all, and we may need to do some further reading around what they should do. But they are honoring their history. They are together because they've always done it this way, right? And then we'll have to decide if it's a good thing or not. Okay. Marianne, just an aside, but the Six of Cups and Light Seers is my all-time favorite image of that card. I love that too. The boy and the puppy and then the man and the dog. Yeah, I love that. Irelina, Six of Cups, getting caught up in the past, romanticizing a past relationship. Sure. Using a past relationship as the yardstick against which you measure all future relationships. Sure, sure. Claire, Anamhara, ancient friendship. Sure. Betty, Six of Cups, staying together for the children. Sure. Bianca, Six of Cups, not being able to let go of the past. Hey, Karen Winkle, I've seen past life connection for the Six of Cups, absolutely, which may or may not mean it's going to work in this lifetime, but the idea that we've shared past lives together. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sarah, Six of Cups, reuniting with a childhood sweetheart, but it will be difficult because since this time you've both matured. So what have we learned from this Six of Cups exercise? We've learned that a card can mean a lot of different things, and we know that. But we know that when we're talking about love, the stakes are high. If we tell someone that you're meant to be with this person and they turn out to be abusive, we have done a great disservice. If we tell someone it's never going to work and it turns out it could work, we've done someone a great disservice. I did someone a great disservice with the Two of Cups situation there. So the whole thing, when we talk about finding love in the cards, we have to recognize how careful we need to be. So what about the Seven of Cups? So the Seven of Cups is an interesting card. And it's not one that I go to particularly regarding love and romance, but as we said, any card can speak to love and romance. And the Seven of Cups is very much about our imagination. It's about our dreams. It's about our fantasies. It may be about real options. It may be thinking about real choices and what we want to choose. It can be about what we want to manifest in our lives, but it can also be about what we're imagining that is not real. And I think that can come in. La Morena, Seven of Cups is the person you mentioned with the 5 matches on Tinder. Well, sure, having to make choices, although at that point you don't really have to make choices. You can date them all and then see, but having a lot of options. You've got options. Oh, Claire, is there a card for kissing frogs and search for love? That's interesting. Let me put that out to the group. Can you think of a particular card, and go ahead and tag it frogs so we'll know, which card might indicate the idea that you have to kiss a lot of frogs in order to find a prince? Okay. Cynthia sees the Seven of Cups as a lot of choices in love when you're single again. Sure, could be. La Morena, something new and fun in the bedroom, perhaps. Could be. So, this is a card of you really don't know what's real. And so if someone says to me, oh, I've just met this guy and he's wonderful, and this card comes up, I'm like, you don't really know that. You had a wonderful time, but you don't really know if he's wonderful yet. So I think a lot of this is about what you don't yet know. La Morena, she sees the you got to kiss a lot of frogs with this card. Absolutely. Anna sees it with the star. Bianca sees for this card fantasies, not thinking clearly, not realistic, or just not yet knowing. Absolutely. And also be careful what you choose. Magda, for the frog, you have to kiss a lot of frogs, the 4 of Cups. Oh, I love that. That makes sense. 6 of Pentacles, 4 of Cups for the frog. Mercedes, 7 of Cups, maybe the lady was with the 5 guys. Right, and can't decide. But really doesn't need to decide. That's not a question of making decisions. That's a question of what do you see for these 5 guys? And so I go through each one of them. And, and I suppose the decision is, should you have a date with this person? There is that. But she's already expressed interest. She probably will at least have one date with each person, unless they blow her off, which might come up in the cards. So it's not even saying of these 5, which one should I date? It's with these 5, do any of these have a potential to do anything? So it really is that, I could have this cup and this cup and this cup. At that point, you can still have a lot of cups, right? La Morena, frogs for the wheel, 7 or 8 of pentacles in context, cards that show repetition or cycles. Sure. All of that makes sense. So, at this point, we have about 10 minutes left. Oh, that's good. Irelina, the moon for the frogs, right? Right? Absolutely. Now, what about when you're stuck literally choosing between 2 people? That's another question that comes up. Like with the 7 of Cups, we're in that early time on match. Cheryl likes the 4 of Wands for love because it looks like 11-11, a happy ending, and can in fact talk about marriage. Betty Flesher, Knight of Cups for the frog, sure. Bianca, Page of Wands or Page cards in general for love. I mean, pages typically are about youth, they're about learning, they're about communication. They could be suitors, especially if you're talking about a younger person, but they could also be the children of the suitors who are going to be problematic. Sarah, frogs, 8 of Cups. Yeah, no doubt. So, 2 things. We're coming down to our last 10 minutes, and I'm wondering if there's anyone here who has an interesting love question and they wouldn't mind being a guinea pig so we can see a process. Dave, it's not up yet, but it will be. It will be up on the StarCast page. And yes, it's relevant to this. So if you are not a subscriber to StarCast here on YouTube, please do. And be on the lookout for a video called It's in the Cards. You will not be disappointed. All right. So, 2 things. If you have a situation that you're willing to share, we'll use you as a guinea pig. And then there's the question of what about choosing between more than one person? It happens. They make songs about it. Remember, torn between 2 lovers, or it's okay, Bianca, if you have the question, lay it out. It's not an easy thing to do, trying to love 2. What cards might come up around choosing between 2 people? I think the 7 of Cups might, but I also think that 2 of Swords could be one. And that's where the court cards come up. If I'm talking to a guy and 2 queens come up prominently, I'm like, is there more than one person in this story? Right? The court cards can do that a lot. People's love baggage, and I could roast you. Okay, so we'll do that one. And Bianca, if you want to lay out a question, go ahead. 7 of Cups from Sally, disillusionment in love. It's all BS. It comes with too many problems. I don't need it, etc. Sure, I could see 4 of Cups for that too. All right, so the question for La Morena, and we'll have time to do 2. So if you want to lay out your question, Bianca, please do. The question from La Morena, we're going to phrase as, what do you see about my past experiences and the baggage I carry from that might make it hard as I go forward in dating? That's the way I'm going to phrase this question for La Morena. And I pulled one card, which is the 6 of Pentacles, 8 of Swords, Ace of Pentacles, 5 of Cups reversed, 7 of Pentacles, King of Cups. Okay, so here's what I see from the past and leading to the future. I stopped with the King of Cups because I feel like that's really what we're looking for. We're looking for that person that sees you as you, that loves you as you, and that you can love too, and I see that in the King of Cups. So when we look at the past, you have been kind and giving. You have had a lot of anxiety, And you've had some anxiety about real world issues, about body issues, about logistical issues. You've had a lot of issues about real world versus like what is versus what you want it to be, and that's been hard. In the Five of Cups reversed, you have tried to make the best of difficult situations, and sometimes it just hasn't worked. And you carry that because it makes it hard for you to believe that you can find this. But I promise you, you can. What you need to do is recognize that you bring a lot to the table. And even though you have anxiety, there are people who can love you exactly as you are. And you need to find that one person by making yourself vulnerable. Okay, we will have time to do one more. And that will be Bianca's. What can I expect in my love life this year? I've had different messages. So, and this is an interesting one because in this question, she does not reveal what the situation is right now. We have no idea if this person is married, happily, unhappily, with someone, not with someone. We have no idea. So let's start with that. When we look at your love life as it stands right now, I see the Three of Swords reversed. I feel like you're healing from the past. If there is a relationship currently, I would say it may not be one that is working well. And it may be one way or the other, if it's a current relationship or not, that you have to heal from the past before you move on. So if you're trying to save a current relationship, you've got to get the past off the table. Either your individual past or the past of the relationship. If you are single and looking for love, you have to let go of the past and heal from the past. When we look at what will happen going forward, High Priestess, you need to be very careful. At this point, you want what's going to work. You're not looking for right now, you're looking for right. And so you have to be very, very careful in what you choose. It is your nature to be overly giving and overly generous. However, one way or the other, I think there is potential for you to find a good partner, but understand that even if you find someone this year, as I think you will, either making something work, and she says she is single, okay, so making something work, but remember, you can find someone that feels really good, but there's going to be ups and downs there. You are going to have to learn and figure out what you will be patient with and what you won't in order to make something work. Is it cheating to ask the situation currently? No, it's not. You can say, okay, let's start with where you are now. Are you married or involved with someone currently? It's not cheating. That can totally be your style. Okay. And, okay, I'm going to do Sarah's in our last 2 minutes because it's a good one. My boyfriend and I are in love, but I have a gut feeling that something about us is not compatible. What could it be? And we're looking at two things there. What is the gut feeling? What is the source of the gut feeling? And is there something that's not compatible, and what is it? So you can see from that one question, I've broken it into 3 questions. This is a very, very important technique. Take a question and find all the questions. What is that gut level feeling? It is something you should listen to. It is a real thing and you should listen to it, and it has to do with who you are. What is it that's not compatible? It may have to do with your goals. It may have to do with the way you communicate. It may have to do with what you envision for the future. What can you do about it? 9 of Pentacles, you have to be secure in yourself. You have to recognize that no couple is 100% compatible. None. And you want to choose someone where the incompatibility is something you can laugh about and work around. So you must be secure in yourself and secure that if this is the right relationship, you can show this person every bit of yourself and he will accept it. He may not join in, he may not understand it, but he'll accept it and support it. And you have to be secure in yourself enough that if he does not, you know that you can move on and find someone who does. All right. Thank you. Those of you who were guinea pigs, thank you for allowing that process. Betty asks, what if the Three of Swords wasn't reversed? What would it mean? I would say right now you need to heal. The difference between actively healing and needing to heal. Okay, very good, very good. So, if this is a topic you want to explore further, I'm teaching a class on Zoom this Thursday. It's a 2-hour class, tarot readings for personalities and relationships. It's $37.50 for a ticket. Go to my website, tarotbychristiana.com, and go to events. Find it there to get your ticket. Again, that will be this Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and it will be recorded. You'll have access to the recording thereafter. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I want to remind you that I am available for private readings by phone, Skype, FaceTime, Messenger, and Zoom. And I've learned a lot. I will not screw you up the way I did the person in my first story with the Two of Cups. And if you learned anything from this class, learn that we learn from our mistakes, and it makes us better readers. Just try not to make mistakes on other people. If you can, make your mistakes on yourself. When is the pendulum class? That is a really, really good question. I'll tell you what you need to do, it is this month, what you need to do is go to the playlist, Live Tarot Webinars, here on this channel. You will see the live tarot webinars we've done in the past, so you can review them if you've missed some or you want to see them again. And you'll see what's scheduled for the rest of the month. And that way you can sign up for it so it will remind you. You will see we've got 2 more meetups and 1 class, which is a pendulum class. I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you all so much.